Welcome to today's class. And in today's class, we want to talk to you, want to teach you how to create a great code mail for graduate school positions, for masters, for PhD, and for postdoctoral positions. Now, on social media, I've created a whole lot of posts on making a big and strong code mail, and I have written so much around why we should send out code mails on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter, the new X. Now, what I have observed is that some persons, potential graduate students, basically copy the template I present, and maybe other graduate school coaches present, and edit a few part of it and send. The truth is, when you copy a code mail template, the one you find on social media, and send, remember that it is on social media and it's available for all and sundry. And so not just you that is copying it, more than 1,000 persons have copied the same code mail template and have sent to the same professors. And so I have resolved not to share templates again, but to teach you how to create the ideal cold mail. Now, you don't need a template. You just need to understand what a cold mail should contain, and you should need to see what professor or how professors view the cold mails you send. It will give you an idea of what should constitute an ideal cold mail. And so before I teach you what I want to share with you today, before I teach you how to create that ideal, that strong, that very appropriate cold mail, I want to take you through a journey to see what professors are saying about cold mails. Of course, the cold mails you want to craft are to be sent to these professors. And so you want to be sure that how do they view it? How do they see it? What is their perspective about the cold mails we send to them? Let's get to Quora, where we'll meet a whole lot of professors and get their views and get their perspective and perception of the cold mails we send in search of master's, PhD, and postdoctoral positions. So I'm here on Quora, and I am going to have a rundown of how professors view cold mail. So I have this professor, Brandy Omerod. She is a former associate professor at the University of Florida, and this is her perspective about what how she views cold mail. So she want to look at, she says, example of emails that I do not respond to include: 1, form emails that the name of any potential mentor could be copied into. These kind of emails tell me that you are just sending mass emails out to all professors with labs. Now, emails with embedded links to CVs or other information, this never look like authentic emails from students, and never follow random links that strangers send. Okay, I never follow random links. So if you are writing your CV and you now place a link to your CV, you're most likely not going to get a good reply from that professor. You said emails with a lot of grammatical and spelling errors. If your initial email is sloppy, then it should be difficult for me to trust your service. Number 4, emails demanding an interview or a lab tour that would only take 1 or 2 hours of time. Professors can get several emails a week from undergraduate students seeking research opportunities. They only have time to meet with a few of the most promising candidates. Number 5, emails that just copy and paste a sentence or two about my research from my website, and I would prefer that you include some information from my published work or from a talk that you heard me or one of my students give, and then discuss why working in my lab would interest you. Now, emails that ask to meet me the day they are sent. Wow. 1 sentence emails that say I am interested in XY research. Please give some guidance about how I would do that. Most professors do not have enough time to write back a long generic response. This type of emails also does not describe that email or information you're actually looking for in a response. So emails that I do often respond to if I am available and all of that, and she stated the kind of emails she responds to. She said, I don't expect everyone seeking a research opportunity to ask to discuss the topic area in details with me, but I do expect the person to know whether they like and could perform the research methods we use in our lab. For example, we simply do not do any computer programming in my lab, so you would need to go somewhere else if that is what you want to do. And so this professor have mentioned how the kinds of emails she do not respond to, and that you would think is just one professor who have that opinion. Let's go down and see some other professors and what they see, or what they talk, or what they feel about emails. So this one says Professor Williams Beedman is a professor and chair at the University of Minnesota, and he says these emails generally are ignored. They are often bulk emails sent out to hundreds of people without regard to any individual's personal research interest or their ongoing research. And that's his perspective. That's how he feels about an email. There is another reason they may be ignored. A PhD student cannot enter into a research program without actually being admitted to that program. Therefore, it is actually useless and all of that. He said, there he gives you an example of the kind of email he expects. So he says, dear Professor X, name of the professor, I am completing my undergraduate in X topic, and I plan to have and that list and all of that. Do not write like things like I am considering applying to a university, or your university is one of the places I am thinking of applying. That is arrogant. You'll be very lucky to get a position at that university, and it leads some other things. In the end, do your homework. A lazy approach to graduate education is never going to be successful. Any institution that accepts you for PhD will pay you tuition plus a living stipend in the USA. This can have a total cost of about $60,000 per year. And so they want somebody who is sharp. They want somebody who has a mind of their own. And so let's go down to see other things professors are saying. This professor says, I cannot speak for all professors. He is an associate professor of biology at the Indiana State University. And he's saying that emails that are obvious cut and paste generic messages sent out to a large number of professors on the slim hope that someone may express an interest. I utterly ignore such emails. He's going to say again that emails sent by individuals that demonstrate that they have looked into my research interests, read my previous publications, and are actually interested in my lab's research programs are likely going to get a response from me. That's another professor, a professor of biology at the Indiana University. Let's see if that is all, if that's how professors feel. This is another professor. She's a professor at a German university. She's going to tell us things she feels about the cold mails we send out there as potential graduate students. It says it is very hard to slip through a spam barrier. Okay, rule one, be very specific. If you're going to send an email looking for an advisor on my PhD thesis on XYZ, very specific, but very short. I will scan the subject and maybe first line of the email. Others have other email setting. So number 3, tell me what you want and how much it will cost me. Looking for a research project, I would assume that you're asking to be hired in some way. If I do not happen to have money, I immediately stop reading. Can I visit your lab? Sounds fishy. What do you want? Can we do research together? You clearly don't know how high quality research works. Nope. Do you offer research opportunities? Nope. Actually, I am not clear on what that means exactly. Do you mean research job opportunities? And she goes on to list some of the very important rules that we ignore in sending out cold mails. That is Professor Brigetti from a German university. Let's go down still to see what other professors are saying about the different cold mails we send. And I want to look at this other professor from Tampere, University of Technology. Says, if they are copy and pasted mass emails, they usually go directly to my trash can. 95% of them are, and I don't think those are not easily recognizable. And every now and then there is a small email from prominent doctorate student or junior researcher generally asking for an opportunity and not only sending a covered request for a Schengen visa. To these emails, I will answer and even forward email to someone else who might have a job for them. And so if your email is detailed, if your email it's not so generic, this professor says, wow, I would answer you. And if I don't have opportunity for you, I would send your mail to a colleague who would have something for you. And I want to go out to see some more professors. Now, Professor Jess, an emeritus professor at the University of British Columbia, says that depends on the professor and on what sort of day they are having, and of course, on whether the request is engagingly composed. Like for any form of solicitation, you need a good script. And so it tells us that if your email is not well composed, it's going to get to the trash can. Are there still more? Yes, this professor is going to give us a more overview. He says that how the professors, how he reacts is, he gave an example. He says somebody wrote him and it begins with saying, respected sir/madam. What it means is that this person did not even do his homework. He doesn't even know if he's a man or a woman. He just sends respected sir/madam. And I think that is insulting to approach a professor with respected sir/madam. And he's going to list that. He says, I am not a respected sir/madam. I have a name and title which this person could not include because they can't be bothered to research me. And he says again, I do not have a research page, although I need to get one up. Their research interests do not match with mine. I don't sponsor summer students. I am not at a research university. So he gives us an example of a cold mail he received. The person did not even bother to research the professor. The person just went there and sent some things, anything that came to his mind. He even insulted the professor in the course of sending his or her mail. Let's say that it's small. This professor also has something to say, and this professor is also frowning at the way we send out our cold mails. And this is a professor emeritus at the Carnegie Mellon University. He says, how should emails asking professors for research opportunities be formatted? He says nobody cares about the format, just the content of the note. But maybe that is what you are really asking about. Except faculty member is looking for different things, and he goes ahead to mention he is detailed on what a particular cold mail should look like. And I have another professors here, and he listed, and plenty of them, plenty persons. I write back thanking them for their interest, but I explained that I do not have a need for their services. And this professor has something to say, and plenty professors just sharing their mind on what an ideal cold mail should look like. Now, I have so much. I think I should share this link for you so that you go down there and see what professors are saying about the plenty cold mail we send. This is a PhD student at she says 5 answers out of that. If you're not already doing this, a trick. Now, since and all of that, she mentioned that you need to research a professor. Now, it seems everybody is converging around the same point. Everybody is saying you need to research the professor. Everybody is saying do not send out a generic mail. Everybody is saying before you send your mail, be very specific. Tell us how you got to know about us. Tell us how our research area aligns. Tell us how you understand our research and how you would come in to join hands with us to do the work. I will take one more example of how professors talk about cold mails before we begin to do. Okay, so there's also another professor. How do you cold mail a professor and express interest in their said this actually works differently for different countries, and she said a few things, and I have a whole lot of professors here and how they feel about cold mails. Now let's see one other professor that is very common, or that is very vocal on LinkedIn and has guided a whole lot of persons and shares our mind on what we do with cold mails and how they affect our chances to win master's, PhD, or postdoctoral position. Okay, so this Professor Gillian Goldfarb, and this is what she has to say about cold mailing. She says, if a PhD is about creating new knowledge using the same cold email template as your classmates, suggests you're not quite ready for this intellectual journey. She says, this week I have received same email from 9 different people. They just copied the same template, edited, and maybe copied one of our research work and pasted and forwarded to her. Now, there is something she goes ahead to say. She says, stop using these templates. Do not pay people for this easy document. Don't use them. The 9 people I received the exact same email from received the same copy and paste email reply in return. And she goes ahead to advise. Now, this is the advice part I want you to pay attention to. It says, you can absolutely use a template to save time reaching out to people, but write it yourself. Now, what do they want to hear? What did she mention? What professors in the US want to hear when you send them a cold mail? She says in 200 words or fewer, because of some of us don't have time to read up to 200 words. And so in 1 sentence per point, that will be fine. 1 sentence per point. Tell us in paragraph 1 who you are. Now, who you are here is not whether you're a chief or a chief priest or a pastor, an imam, and whatsoever from your place. Tell us the part of you that relates to the professor you are writing to. Oh, you're writing to a professor of physics, for example, whose research interest is in photonics or in geophysics or in optical communication. You want to tell the person that I am Moses Udoiser, I am a recent BS graduate of physics with bias or with research interest in photonics and optoelectronics or optical communication. So you want to be very specific in your introduction. Introduction here is not when you were born or all the different universities you have gone to. It is specifically how your introduction relates to the professor you are cold mailing. And number 2, you want to tell us why, specifically why you are emailing them. I am looking for exposition. Doesn't say anything. Tell them I am looking for a master's research position in this interest in your research group. Tell them you're looking for a PhD position in physics, particularly in molecular physics, and in their lab. You must be specific what you're looking for. And the next paragraph is why you are interested in this person's, this PI's group. Do not just copy and paste their paper, but tell them how you understand their research trust, how you understand the totality of all of the different research they are into, and of course, very importantly, how your skills aligns with the research that is done in that group. Now, for example, you're writing an experimental research professor and you're a theoretical scientist. Of course, your research interests do not align, even if they may be the same thing. Your trust is theoretical, and the person you're writing has a trust of experimental sciences. That will not match. And lastly, you want to close in with your CV. You want to be sure that your academic CV is attached, so that when the person reads through your work, he or she just look at the CV you attach and makes meaning of all the things you have professed, and do this in about 200 words. And don't forget, you don't need AI to write a cold mail. If you copy an AI has a way of writing, and every sensible professor out there would know that you have used AI to write or script this work. So you don't need that. You don't need an AI. You just need to know exactly what should you write, how should you write it, when do you send it, and when do you follow up. That's what this my tutorial today is about. That's why I'm taking you through this. Like I mentioned before, I have shared a whole lot of templates. I've shared more than 100 templates on cold mailing, and I simply discovered that potential graduate students out there just copy this template, copy and paste, change physics to their specific interest, don't bother to align it to anybody. They begin to send it every here and there. And professors, of course, are some of the very intelligent persons the world have produced. They get to see this through. They get to look through and see that this guy doesn't know anything about me. He or she simply copied this somewhere and sent it across. And so, now that we know how professors feel about our cold mail, let's go to learn how to draft an ideal cold mail. I'm going to pick up the reviews of about 5 professors and give you a position on how your cold mail should look. You don't need to make it a very generic piece of writing. First step to crafting your cold mail is researching a professor, and to research them, of course, you need to find them. So one good place I find professors is on X. So I go to X and I type professors of physics, and I want to mention my particular interest so that I don't have random professors. I have professors of physics in a specific interest of photonics. That's if it was electronics, or if it was economics, you could type professor of economics in bracket econometrics, or health economics, or finance economics. Or if you're in political science, you could say professor of political science in bracket war and terrorism study, or international relations. Just put it in bracket, and on X you click on enter. And when it begins to search, you want to filter it to people. You would find top, latest, people, media, list. You want to ensure that you filter it to people, because you are interested in people, in professors of physics that are persons. And so you click on this and wait for it. You see a number of professors in photonics, and this is your first step. This is the first step to finding professors in your area. It is a very important steps. And so I want to look at, this is Professor Sergio Leon Savel. I think he's a Russian, and he's an associate professor of optical physics. And I have Professor Dave Phillips. He's at the University of Essex. And I have Professor of physics at Universitat. This is a German person. And I have Professor of organic photonics and nano-optics group leader at Linköping University in Sweden. And these are professors you could look up to, you could search for. These are potential persons you want to send your mails to, and the good part is their universities are listed. And so let's say I am interested in Professor Magnus Johnson, and so I'm going to click open, and I'm going to see more about him. If I go through his timeline, I'm going to find all the things he has been talking about. I'm going to find that somewhere here, last year, he was looking for a postdoctoral student. And the good part is, in most of the cases, Twitter, that is X, would give you their web link. And so I have the web link of this professor. And supposing the web link was not there, what can I do with it? I can copy the name of this professor. That is when the web link is not there, because if the web link is there, if you just click on the web link, it will take you to more about this professor. This is his research group. That means you already know he has a research group. And when a professor has a research group, the meaning is that he or she will be recruiting plenty of masters, PhD, postdoctoral students, and all of that. And so I have this professor here, and here I could read about his research. Very important. All the researches he is into, his research area would become apparent here. I would look at all the papers he has published, and I would make sense of his research group. Now, his research group has a trust on conducting polymers as a new type of materials for dynamic plasmonics. That is his research area. I think he is largely into biophotonics and biophotonics material. And so I'm going to spend some quality time here to look at this professor, look at his research interest, look at his research publications. And I want to look at publication. I want to see what he is doing. What has he published? He has published a paper on ionic thermoelectric powered resistivity sensors. He has a paper on electrically tunable infrared optics enabled by flexible ion permeable conducting polymer. Like I said, he's into organic photonics. And so why am I looking at all of these? Remember, I want to code mail. Remember, I am interested in working with this professor. I want to fish for an opportunity for a master's, PhD, or postdoctoral position in his lab. And so I am studying this person. I have not met this person before. He has not met me before. But that is how I study him, and I'll find 2 or more insight to send a mail and find a point of connection between our research areas. And so I have his research trust. I don't necessarily need to copy one research work. I can just look at all of his research trusts and get a meaning of what he's into. And in my cold mail, I would just mention how our interests aligns. And there is more. If this professor did not have this, how else can I search him? And before I leave, I want to show you that you can get his contact. Yes, he leaves his email contact here with us. And so if you wanted to cold mail him, you just have that already. His email contact is here. You just copy it and be ready to send your cold mail. But what if I had looked at this professor and he doesn't have his web link attached? He doesn't have a website. How possible? What can I do to get this professor? Now, before I leave, each time you search a particular professor, people that follow him will most likely be professors or postdoctoral students in that interest. So you want to search them out. I want to look at Professor George. He's a professor at the Technology University in Cambridge. And of course, he's also into photonics. That's why he is following Professor Magnus Johnson at the first place. And so these persons that are by the side that Twitter would suggest are also in that research area you are interested in. And so you want to look at them. You want to follow them up too. You want to send them cold mails. You want to research them out. But like I mentioned, supposing the professor doesn't have his web link on his Twitter space or on his X space, how do I get to find him? Of course, I'll take his name and I'll go to Google. Google searches for everybody. So I am here on Google and I have just pasted the professor's name, Professor Magnus Johnson. And this is his picture. I took note of his picture when I was on Twitter. So this is his picture. I click on his picture and I am interested this time in going to 2 things will pop up. One would be his website, his university, and his profile on the university. And the next thing that will pop up would be his Google Scholar page. You want to click on that Google Scholar because that would have an overview of all his different research. So you want to spend some time here. Now, these are the things you do before you send a cold mail. So I'm going to spend some time here. I'm going to look through his different research. He's into nano optics, is into conducting polymers, is into metaphysics, is into smart materials, and is at the University of Linköping at Sweden. And these are his plenty works. Yes, he has about 6,106 citation. He is a highly influential professor in this branch of photonics. And so you want to spend some time here, you want to study and study and study and study. And when you are done, you're ready to now send your cold mail. After a very good study of the profile of the professor I want to send my mail to, it is time to go and send that mail. And I'll quickly go to my email, and it is time to do that. So just before you send the mail, you want to ensure that, one, you have created a very official mail. Your mail address is not blackpanda@gmail.com. It's not blackkiss, or it's not kissmequick@gmail.com. You are using your name as your official email address. You want to ensure that, and once you have ensured that, you want to ensure that you have an email signature. Most of you don't know how to create a signature. I would leave you a link on how to create an email signature. This you have on my email is a signature. A signature basically has your name, it has your research and who you are, your university name, your TEL, your LinkedIn link, and your research interest. That's what constitutes a very good email signature for somebody searching for a graduate school position. And so you want to copy the professor's email and bring to this mail space. Okay, so here is the professor. I have gotten his email, and the next part of the email, the first part of your email, is that subject. Remember that when we review different professors, we mentioned, some professors said your subject must be very catchy. So I want to craft a very catchy subject, and I will say interested in joining your group as a master's research student, or looking for a potential research opportunity in your group. You want to make it very catchy. That's because when a new email pops up, the part that pops up is the subject. And if the subject is not very interesting, if it's not very enticing, if it's not very inviting, the professor will just quickly click on delete, and the mail runs to delete immediately. So you want to ensure that your subject is catchy. It is something that somebody wants to spend some time to look into. Once I am done with that, I would lay out the cold mail from the different perspective. We've concluded that an email should have an introduction. An email should have some background and alignment. Some background and alignment. An email should have the perspective you bring, the specific perspective you bring or you intend to bring to the group. An email should have a very good closing, and it is in the closing you mentioned that you have attached your CV. Then before you get to the introduction, you want to have a salutation where you say, "Dear Professor." You're not going to say, "Dear respected madam" or "sir." That is a very insulting salutation. So you want to say, "Dear Professor Johnson." From what we've seen, his surname is Johnson, and in official parlance, it is always ideal to address someone by their surname, not by their first name. So, "Dear Professor Johnson," and you want to go to the introduction. The introduction is simply in less than 10-20 words. You should be done with the introduction. I want to say, I am a recent BS graduate of physics with graduate of physics of the University of Port Harcourt, with interests in photonics and optical communication. You want to be the part of introduction that is important is that part that aligns you or introduce you to the professor, not a very generic one. Okay, I am writing to seek an opportunity to join your research group at the university. University name, University of, I think that university was Linköping, Sweden, as a master's student. That is done with introduction, and you're done. It doesn't need to be a very elaborate thing. Just mention who you are and how what you want with this professor. Next is your background and alignment. What alignments here? The alignment of your research interests, your research experiences, your research ability with what the professor is doing in his or her lab. So I want to say, as an undergraduate student, I had research opportunities and learning experience in conducting theoretical research in nanophotonics, specifically quantum dots and their application. My learning has deepened my interests in nano optics. Remember that professor was working on nano optics and materials for optical communication. My research of your group indicates that your group is into nano optics research and have a trust on organic optical materials. I am specifically drawn to the theoretical aspects of your work and wish to be guided along this path by you. That could just be that. Now, what perspective do you bring? In preparation for this opportunity, I have garnered requisite hands-on experiences with computing or with computational analysis using Python and R. I have also had experience with writing and publishing papers, if you have that in peer-reviewed journals, I believe that these experiences will prove handy in your group and in guiding my hands into proficiency in nano optics. You want to go down and you want to say in closing, I have attached my academic CV for your perusal. If you would like any further information, I will be glad to provide. Okay, so there you go. That is all there is to your cold mail. It doesn't have to do plenty things. You don't even need to start attaching plenty information, and you want to ensure that your spellings are okay. You want to ensure that all the words are well spelled and everything is just fine that way. So this cold mail is now ready. Next is to click on the addition button and go and look for your CV and attach it. And once you are done with all of these, you want to show that this is not more than 200 words. Oh, you don't need these titles. You don't need these subtitles. So you want to take it out. You want to take this out. You want to take this out. You want to take this out. And your email is just now set. This is about 100 words, plus or minus 150 words, and this cold mail is done. So you want to check at the time. You want to look at the time before you click on the send button. You want to be sure that your CV is attached and that the time is about morning in the recipient time belt. You don't send this mail at night. You don't send this mail when it is night on the recipient's time belt. The reason is, if you send it at night, at the time the professor will turn up this mail, there may be several mails that have popped up on his timeline already, and so your mail comes up too busy, and he has so much to read, or she has so much to read, and you don't get to be the first person to get the best reply out of the email you've sent. So you want to ensure that you're sending this mail around 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. so that at 8 a.m. when the professor gets to the office or his day is just beginning, your mail is the first that greets his face. Friends, this is all you need to know about sending cold mails. You begin from getting to know what professors need, what they are doing, what they are saying about your cold mail. You craft a cold mail that addresses all the loopholes they have mentioned. Don't forget that in this channel, we create content, we create information, we teach you, we guide you, we mentor you on how to get the best of searching for master's, PhD, and postdoctoral position. So you want to ensure that you click on the subscribe button and then want to click on the bell so that the next time I am sharing a piece of information on graduate school, you are about the first person to be notified. Now, I have just shared with you all you need to send that beautiful cold mail. Oh yes, your cold mail may not always get replies, but they will surely get replies if you're consistent, if you don't give up. Just keep sending. Just keep sending your best cold mail. You're not sending the same cold mail to different professors within the same faculty. You're not sending generic email. You're ensuring that for each of the mail you craft it, you edit it to fit the particular professor's interest and area that is receiving your mail. I am assuring you that if you do this, you can be the next winner of a fully funded master's, PhD, or postdoctoral position. So go out there and begin to cold mail.